1. Stand up straight, walk your shoulders back.
Stand up straight with your shoulders back. And that sounds like kind of a silly rule, and he does a really crazy good job of diving into the deep neurological and even existential reasons why that's important. I'll do a really brief summary of that here, and then I'm going to talk to you about practically how to fix your posture if you're in that position. So real quick, before I get into that, think about where your posture is right now. Are your shoulders high and in your ears? Are your shoulders rounded forward so that your chest is kind of caved in? Are you yourself hunched over rather than sitting up straight? Because there's a difference between the kind of man who stands like this and the kind of man who stands like this. And I'm not intentionally sticking my chest out, although I did wear a tank top just for you guys, both for the logo's sake and because it's easier to talk about posture if you can see what the heck I'm doing. So that being said, while you've checked in with your posture where you're at right now, why does that matter? Well, as Jordan Peterson goes into chapter 1 of his book, he talks about lobsters. What the heck do lobsters have to do with people, Alex? Lobsters have to do with people in the sense that there's a serotonergic system in your body that actually dictates how your posture is or isn't. And easy way to understand that is when two lobsters fight and they do their little claw thing, hiya, hiya, and one of them wins. When the lobster wins the battle, he stands up a little bit straighter, and that's dominated by serotonin. It's a neurotransmitter in the brain. You get a little bit more serotonin. Well, the lobster got a little bit more serotonin and he stands up straighter. And what happens to the lobster who loses? The lobster who loses crunches down a little bit. He closes his claws. He looks a little shortened, and he's a smaller version of himself. And what's really interesting is that psychologists have found if you give a lobster an antidepressant, like Prozac, for instance, which is a serotonin reuptake inhibitor, SSRI, then they fix their posture. They stand up a little bit straighter, and they're actually more ready to fight. What the heck does that mean to you on Manly Monday? Well, first, if you checked in with your posture and you're a little folded in and your shoulders are rounded forward and your shoulders are up in your ears, you are assuming the position of the defeated lobster. What does that have to do with being a better man, Alex? Well, if you are the defeated lobster, physiologically, so you physically are small, you physically are shortened and hunched over and protecting kind of your innards. That's what that posture means. Like, look out, somebody might try to attack me. If you're in that position, you physiologically produce less serotonin in your mind, and it affects everything. So like I said, if you give somebody Prozac, that's an antidepressant, might help them through a really difficult time in life. What's really powerful about that is if you can actually help somebody to expand where they're at. If you're sitting there, especially if you're a guy, sit there and put your hands behind your head and just like lean against something for a second. They've done studies where they actually find that if you do that for 5 minutes, you occupy a very large amount of space and you just kind of breathe deeply, your testosterone will go up somewhere between 20 and 40%. That's crazy. Those of you who are looking for testosterone boosters, go just stretch out somewhere and breathe for a little while in your office chair or at your car wheel. I can see some of you guys, you're like, oh, okay, I'll drive like this. More testosterone can't be a bad thing, right? So all that to say, your posture, your physical posture physiologically affects what's going on the inside. And I'm not going to say it's the antidote to all of your depression, but I am going to say that Jordan Peterson makes a fantastic case for why that's the number one rule for life. Stand up straight with your shoulders back, fix your posture. Now, this is kind of powerful and important. He doesn't talk about this in his book because he's not a trainer. He's a behavioral psychologist. So he's talking about like the mindfulness of standing up straight with your shoulders back. Maybe you've been defeated so many times in life that you just don't even notice anymore, and you're kind of like slumping through life like this. Or maybe it's just been a particularly rough week, right? And so he's talking about the mindfulness around standing up straight with your shoulders back, and it actually does physiologically change you in your brain. And that's cool. However, what he doesn't address is that there are muscular imbalances that are created by poor posture over time. And even if you think, okay, I'm going to stand up straight with my shoulders back, you go from here to here. Mindfulness isn't going to fix those muscular imbalances, especially if they've been there for a while. So on Manly Monday today, I wanted to give you a quick rundown of the postural deviances that I see, especially in men, and let you decide if that's you, and then talk to you a little bit about how to fix them. This isn't a one-size-fits-all corrective exercise session. I guess I could do that at some point. The postural issues that I see in dads. So number one, shoulders are too high. Shoulders are too high. You're holding all of your stress in your upper traps, actually, and your shoulders are real close to your ears. It makes you a much smaller person than if your shoulders were down in the sockets and actually packed down. And what does that mean from a muscular imbalance standpoint? Well, if you're walking around with your shoulders high, then your upper traps and your levators and your sternocleidomastoids are over tight. They're pulling everything up, right? And pulling your head forward. And your lower trapezius muscles, those are the, hey, I've got an anatomy chart behind me. This guy's back right here. That's his lower trapezius. And these are his lats. Lower trapezius and lats are underdeveloped. And so one set of muscles is pulling everything up, and the other set of muscles that should be pulling the shoulders down are not doing the work that they need to. So what do you do about that? Well, it's actually really hard to foam roll this area, but you could actually get up against the wall with like a lacrosse ball. And the upper traps here, let me show you Goku's traps here. The upper traps form a kite in the back. And so you can actually roll with like a racquetball against the wall. You can, or lacrosse ball would probably be even better. It's a little firmer. You can roll against the trapezius muscle there and actually relax the muscle. And then a stretch for the trapezius muscles, you put one arm behind your back, take the other hand and grab that wrist, and then lay to the opposite side. So this arm's behind my back, my head's laying to the opposite side. Such a good trapezius stretch. And you can even loll your head forward just a little bit to catch that trap. And then you do it on the other side. So we're rolling the trapezius out. If your levators are really tight, you can have somebody dig their fingers in here. You can do it to yourself. Oh, it's a rough spot. And then sternocleidomastoids are the muscle that pull your head forward. And so you can lay your head to the side and push your chin up. So those three stretches, plus a little bit of rolling on that trap, take maybe 5 minutes, and you can do that 3 times a week, and eventually the shoulders will start coming down. And from a muscle development standpoint, you want to develop your lats and your lower trapezius muscles. And so in the gym, you do those lat pull downs, and I don't mean like bicep pull downs, okay? This is what a bicep pull down looks like. Your shoulders are up in your ears and you're just pulling away at that bar, right? Don't do that. You're holding onto your lat here. Your shoulders can right up in your ears on the way up, and then you pull those shoulders down as you pull the bar down, and that activates the latissimus dorsi, those muscles right here that actually help to pull those shoulders down. And then your lower trapezius muscle can be developed by like cable pull downs is a good way to do it. You can also do laying on a bench. These are called dumbbell pullovers. Many people don't do these exercises anymore. It's from the era of Arnold, and those can develop those lower trapezius muscles. And so after a bit, what happens is your shoulders get more and more and more out of your ears. And that takes time. That's not just, hey, think about better posture. That's trained specifically to improve your posture so that you can stand up tall with your shoulders back, right? That's one. The second thing that I see very often with guys is not only are their shoulders rode up, but their shoulders are rolled forward like this. And I hear a lot of these guys say, I'd like a bigger chest, Alex. Well, yeah, you would, and they work out chest all the time. And that's actually why your shoulders are rolling forward and ruining your posture, because your pectoral muscle is getting shorter and shorter and shorter. And so that shoulder's rolling forward. And so what you need to do then is you need to spend some time in resistance training doing things like cable rows. They could be TRX rows. They can be cable rows. And again, I don't mean like bicep rows here. I mean, like, think about there's a walnut between your shoulder blades back here, and you're trying to squeeze those shoulder blades together and crack a walnut. Those are called your rhomboids. And so developing your rhomboids and lower trapezius muscles will pull those shoulder blades back. And then secondarily speaking, just like I talked about stretching the traps and levators, we want to stretch those pectoral muscles. If you're just now joining us, I'm talking about Jordan Peterson's rule number 1 for life, or a meaningful life, and antidote to the chaos. He talks about standing up straight with your shoulders back and how posture actually develops a serotonergic system and helps you out of depression, and can actually also help you in your level of confidence to take life on. And I'm talking about the physical ramifications of that for Manly Monday. So if you're just now joining me, we're being mindful about our posture, and I'm talking about some common fixes to common postural problems. So those shoulders are rolled forward. We're going to exercise those rhomboids, those lats, and those lower traps to pull back on those shoulders. And also, we're going to stretch that pectoral muscle. Okay, you want a bigger chest and you're rounded forward like this, you should probably do more stretching for your chest and stop lifting so heavy with it for a little bit of time so that you can actually pull those shoulders back. And you can actually see a difference in this in the gym in just one session. You'll look at yourself and go, wow, that worked already, right? What'd you do? Some light flies to stretch the chest, a lot of good cable rows, a lot of good lat pull downs, and a lot of good focus on rolling those shoulder blades back. Another good exercise would be those rear delt flies. So you're like leaning over and you're flying with the back. My wall's on the way. I can't show you. Anyway, so for Manly Monday today, we're going to stand up straight with our shoulders back. We're going to fix our posture because it elevates the way our physiology responds to our position in our social hierarchy, or simply, you'll feel more confident, you'll feel less depressed, and you'll feel more ready, like the lobster, to take on the fights that you'll have to take on this week. And from a physical perspective, just thinking about good posture might not be enough for you. You might have had that slumped over the computer or the phone or the steering wheel for a while. That posture is just kind of stuck that way. And even if you think about it, okay, stand up straight, shoulders back, like nothing really changes, right? And so we're going to give our traps, our levators, our sternocleidomastoids some stretching, get those shoulders out of the ears. We're going to strengthen our trapezius and trap muscles so that we can actually pull those shoulders down. And then we're going to roll those shoulders back by stretching the chest, maybe even foam rolling a bit. Heck, you don't need a foam roller. Take 3 fingers and shove it right there. If you have a tight chest, that'll get you. And then we're going to strengthen those rhomboids and lats to pull those shoulders back. And so for Manly Monday today, I hope you'll stand up straight with your shoulders back. You'll make a commitment over the next 4 to 6 weeks to fix your posture. And heck, while you're at it, we just did a show on breathing during your workouts. And if your posture's great, you can actually take deeper breaths. Go figure. But there's a lot in the show about how breathing actually helps the inner chaos and the focus of your workouts. So you get around 100% better results, meaning it's like you worked out twice, but you didn't. You just breathed better. Anyway, go check that show out. Guys, it's been fantastic. This has been Alex VanHouten with Defining Dad Bod. Until next time, happy Manly Monday. Kick butt. Take names.
Rule 2. Treat yourself like someone you're responsible for helping.
Treat yourself like someone you're responsible for helping. And in rule number 2, he goes on a very long treatise talking about how if you are prescribed a medication, a life-saving medication, to take care of yourself. For instance, he uses the example of kidney transplant recipients. Okay, so they're going on dialysis 5 or 6 hours a day, right? And you get a kidney transplant. And if you get a kidney transplant, your body doesn't really like having somebody else's organs stitched into your body. And so there are medications that if you take them, they dampen your immune response and they let the kidney transplant take better. And what they found is only about 75% of those people actually get the prescription filled. That's number 1. And then only 50% of that 75, so half of those people, take the prescription as required. And I mean, this is like, you have a lot invested in this. Kidney transplants are expensive. Dialysis is no fun for anybody. There's a lot of variables within this decision. But one of the things that he walks away is why is it that we stink so bad at taking care of ourselves? And he goes on a big psychological treatise talking about the fall of man and Adam and Eve, and sometimes our shameful and our self-shaming way of thinking about ourselves. But what I think is really interesting about this is he talks about the example of our dogs. If we bring our dog to the vet and the dog is sick and the vet prescribes a medication for our dog, we are way more likely to give our dog its medication than we are to give ourselves our medication like we're supposed to. Which is crazy because you would think if we really loved our dog, then we would take care of ourselves, because if we kick the bucket, then nobody's here to give our dog our medication. But this is Defining Dad Bod, so we're not talking about dogs. Let's talk about you and your kids and your health and fitness, because this is something I've found really powerful in talking to dads especially, but I've also spoken with moms. A lot of you don't know that in my 13 years of my training career, my first 8 or so, I specialized in women, especially post-pregnancy and menopausal women. But in talking to parents, what's really interesting is if you ask somebody, what's your goal? What are you hoping to accomplish with your own health and fitness? They'll give you some answer. Oh, I need to lose 10 pounds, or I need to get off this medication, or my doctor told me that I needed to get in better shape, or something along those lines. And so what I find is those answers, I mean, they're kind of good, right? And if you dig into them enough, you might actually get something out of them. But if I ask somebody and I say, what do your kids have to do with your desire to be in better shape? What do your kids have to do with your desire to lose weight or to eat better or exercise? Man, the answers are huge. Oh man, I want to set a better example for them. Or, oh, they deserve to know the person I was before I became whatever person I am now, right? Or if I go one step further and I ask, because somebody will say to me, what do you think about the ketogenic diet? Should I count calories? What should my macronutrient intake be? Should I buy a food scale? Right? So I can be really precise about my food and stuff. And I'll say, okay, well, that's a great question. Let me ask you this. How do you want your kids to understand their food? What kind of relationship do you want your children to have with nutrition? Do you want them to measure every little thing they put in their mouth? Do you want them to be worried about whether or not they're meeting their macros today? Do you want them to have, pumpkin cheesecake completely off limits because they've had a terrible relationship with food for 20 years and now they've really got to cut the sweets out of their life? Is that what you want for your kids? And then a lot of people will go, well, no, that's not what I want at all. I want a great balance of quantity of life for my kids. I want them to live long and eat in a way that's good for them. And but I also want them to enjoy their food. I want them to have a high quality of life and go out with friends and have a drink every now and then, and not feel bad about their nutrition. And I guess I hope that their nutrition is so good most of the time that the little things that make life really fun aren't really a big deal for their health and fitness. And I'm like, you got it. That's exactly what you want for your kids, and that's exactly what you should want for yourself. And so today, for Manly Monday, I'm encouraging you that when you think about your health and fitness, there we go. If you have kids, great. Maybe that kid example is really helpful, but if you don't have kids, it's not. But I'm asking you to treat yourself like someone you're responsible for helping. Treat yourself like somebody you're responsible for helping. Jordan Peterson makes a great case here. You're welcome to go pick up the book or listen to the audiobook. Don't worry, I don't get kickbacks from this thing. I just love this book and I love the message here. But that being said, I hope that you'll think today on Manly Monday and throughout this week that you'll challenge yourself to treat yourself like you're somebody whom you're responsible for helping. And if you have kids, that's really real to you. You know what it feels like to want good for your kids and to hope well for them and all that good stuff. And if you have a pet, you can think in terms of that. You're way more likely to give your dog his medication than you are to take your own medication, even if your life is on the line, which just should be mind-blowing to you. And the same could be said about your health and fitness. If you were somebody that you were trying to help, what would you hope for your exercise? What would you hope for your lifestyle? What would you hope for your nutrition and your supplements and your sleep? What would you hope for yourself if you were responsible for taking care of you? Because guess what? You are. Nobody else is taking care of you for you. And if there are people in your life that you really care about, then the best thing that you can do is to start with yourself. Put yourself together, put your body together, put your lifestyle together, put your exercise together, put your nutrition together. And I know we all have some obstacles that we need to overcome in order to make the best of our situation and whatnot. But my big question to you is, how might you deal with those differently if you were responsible for helping yourself?
Rule 3. Friends with people who want the best for you.
Make friends with people who want the best for you. Very powerful chapter. This, in terms of health and fitness, and what I want to challenge you with in Manly Monday is an immensely important part of what I deal with in the fitness industry on a day-to-day basis, okay? And I mean in terms of working with clients. Make friends with people who want the best for you. What does that mean? Well, Jordan Peterson dives in this chapter talking about kind of his hometown and friends he grew up with and what it was like growing up with those people, and not necessarily just the maxim of you become who you hang out with, but talking about how people around you influence you either for the positive or the negative. And all of us know that. However, for me, it becomes very real in the world of health and fitness. So when I work with somebody, they'll say, I want to lose, so many pounds, or I want to, eat better and exercise well. I want to change this in my lifestyle. And many times, whether we're successful or not successful, whether we like it or not, has way more to do with the people who are around us, who we surround ourselves with, than our own personal discipline. Now, our own personal discipline can get us pretty far. Our own willpower can get us pretty far. Let's say you listen to part 4 of Overcoming Obesity, which will come out in the next 24 hours, so get excited. And you learned about how alcohol negatively affects testosterone. And you know that in order to have the muscles you want and the body fat you want, then you need to have testosterone working for you rather than against you. So you discipline yourself and you say, hey, I'm going to limit my alcohol intake to not drinking 6 out of 7 days per week, which is what I recommend in part 4 of Overcoming Obesity. So you make that decision. You're like, no alcohol, 6 out of 7 days a week. And you're good. You're fantastic, actually, for the first week or two. And that's great. But let's say your spouse has had a particularly long week and they really want to go grab a few drinks. Or your friends call you up and say, hey, we're going out to this place. Or, so-and-so's having a party and you come and everybody's got a drink in their hand, right? Or everybody's ordering a drink at the table. And you think, what can it hurt? I'll have a drink and no big deal. And you do that. And then the next day you're like, well, I had a drink last night. It's not that big of a deal. And well, I had a drink last night. It's not that big of a deal. Before you know it, the social sphere that you had with a tiny, tiny little suggestion has progressed you into a place that you decided you were disciplining yourself against. Or in other words, you've surrounded yourself with people either whom you feel you can't share your goals with, or you'd prefer not to burden them with your progress, right? And that's a big deal. And then there's the really dark side to that, which are those people I've worked with in the past who have made a decision to eat healthy for themselves. And the people in their life are completely against it. Like, oh my gosh, you're losing weight. Before you know it, you're going to be so skinny and anorexic. Like, that's terrible. I heard a guy actually in one of our transformation stories talk about losing 150 pounds and coming from a family who is relatively obese. And so when he went home for the holidays, instead of people saying, wow, it's so good that you're getting your stuff together, man, high five, I wish I was as disciplined as you, or wow, you're inspiring me to make my own changes. They were saying stuff like, hey, that's not healthy. Like, you're not looking good. You're looking real thin around the face. Like, it's not very good for you. And we're really worried about you. And it's like, wait, I'm lowering my obesity. Like, I'm helping myself with cardiovascular disease. I'm more energetic for my kids. I'm an all-around happier person. What do you mean you're worried about me? And in that sense, this rule number 3, surround yourself with people who want the best for you, is a really powerful injunction in your fitness journey. And for Manly Monday, my challenge to you is to look around in your life at the people you've surrounded yourself with and ask yourself, do they want the best for me? When good things happen, when I make good changes for myself, are they there to high five me, slap me on the butt, thumbs up, cheer me on, maybe even get inspired by me doing better? Or is my personal change, my personal progress, making them feel defensive or left behind? And so they're interested in, maybe even subconsciously, it might not be a malicious intent on their part, but maybe even subconsciously trying to deter me from making progress in this field, especially in health and fitness. There are a lot of ways that the people we surround ourselves with can rain on our parade. You start going back to church and people start calling you a hokey religious fanatic, or you start going to bed on time and people start calling you, the boring old man who has to get his beauty sleep, right? Or you cut out alcohol from your life and people don't want to hang out with you anymore because you're just not as fun as you used to be. And all of those things are not because you've done something wrong. It's because, if anything, you've surrounded yourself with people who aren't looking out for the best for you. And so my injunction to you today on Manly Monday is take a look around at your social circle. Ask yourself if the people who are around you want the best for you. And if that's not the case, I don't want you to drop them cold turkey, but start deciding how you might find better influences, find better support systems. And actually, this is one of the reasons why I think it's so powerful to find a workout buddy or a workout group that you can be a part of. Because what's really cool is, let's say you go to yoga class or you go to a run club or something, no matter who's there or why they're there to better themselves. You know, maybe they want to run a marathon, maybe they want to lose weight, maybe their friend invited them, they have no idea what they're doing here. Whatever the case is, you are automatically surrounding yourself with people who are also trying to better themselves. And I could say the same thing about the social support at Defining Dad Bod, both on our page and in our inner circle of patrons. We are looking to better ourselves and are looking to celebrate the wins in each other. So that being said, that's my message to you on Manly Monday. Let's learn from Jordan Peterson's rule number 3, surround ourselves with people who want the best for us. And being a practitioner of health and fitness, I think it's important to think about that in terms of your nutrition, lifestyle, and exercise change, and surround yourself with people who are making those changes for themselves as well, and who bolster, support, and inspire that in you. And don't go looking for validation from people who just aren't going to be on board with you.
Rule 4. Compare yourself to your yesterday, not to who someone else is today.
Rule number 4, compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not who someone else is today. Oh my gosh, the most common is, as I have found with clients in the last 13 years, the most common health and fitness pratfall is that rule, and I can't wait to talk about it. But here's how it looks in the fitness industry. So imagine you have a picture of who you'd like to be. You want to be in better shape. You want to lose 10 pounds. You want to get in the gym and start working out. And so you go to the gym, and then you look around at all of these people doing stuff you don't know how to do or aren't comfortable doing. And you're just like, you feel inadequate. You know, you pick up the barbell. I remember this as a college guy, kind of, getting into, I would pick up my 30-pound barbell to do some curls or some shoulder presses. And I look over and there's a guy curling like 80 pounds, making it look easy. Like, he's not even grunting. He's not even the annoying guy. Like, you look at him and he deserves those muscles. Like, this guy's worked hard for them. He has great form. I can't complain, can't argue with him. And he's over there curling 80s like a boss, right? And bench pressing 300 pounds and stuff. And you look at that and you're like, well, I'm going to put my 30 up and I'm going to go, I don't know, join the swim team because I don't belong here. And that's a guy's example. How about the ladies? You go to like cycle class or yoga class and you don't know how to adjust the seat, or they're like, okay, now assume warrior 1, and everybody does this thing and you're like, what the heck is warrior 1? Like, I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm looking at that girl and that guy, and you leave the class just feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm so in over my head. These people are way further on their fitness journey than I am. What am I doing here? And in the fitness world, I can't stress this enough. This rule number 4, compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who someone else is today. That is just the most profound piece of advice. If I could give every single client a profound piece of advice, that's the thing that I work to drive home so hard over months of working with somebody, even years of working with somebody. It's not like, oh, so-and-so can do 10 pull-ups, or wow, look at her, she's a beast, or wow, look at him, doing kettlebell swings with double my weight. Like, man, I feel really inadequate. And my conversation always is, look what you can do now and who you are now compared to who you were when we first started working together, or what you could do when we first started working together. And man, the health and fitness of some people is something worth aspiring to. It might be your ideal. Maybe there's a celebrity who you like really admire their arms and you're like, man, I want arms like them someday. Or maybe there's a family member who just eats way better than you do. Like they just, everything they do is clean. Everything they do is organic. They, eat only these things and not these things. And they're so good and they're so disciplined about it. And you're like, man, I'd like to be like that person. There's utility in that. That's the creation of a vision or an ideal. And we all need something to shoot for. That's pretty powerful, especially if we can't picture ourselves in that position. We can't picture ourselves with those arms. We can't picture ourselves running that mile that fast, or we can't picture ourselves eating that well or going to bed on time or whatever. We all need an ideal, and that's important. Sometimes you have to look to other people for that. I get that, makes plenty of sense. However, after you have created that ideal, after you have created that goal and you have a vision of where you'd like to go, every single day, those small things that you have to do to get there, you can't be comparing yourself to that person every single day. You can't do that. You can't do that. Maybe outside of like, what would Alex do if I'm your ideal? I don't know if I'm ideal or not, but if you're asking that question, okay, fine. But you can't say, well, Alex can do a Turkish get up with 80 pounds and I'm over here doing it with my shoe and I still can't get the movement right. Like, that's a real thing, right? But the question is, who were you yesterday? Can that guy do a Turkish get up with his shoe? Okay, no, well, you're making progress, because in the health and fitness world, when you set a goal, that's great. Put it on your mirror, like write it on a note card, take a picture or write it down or try to construct the picture. Awesome, whatever. But every single day, you can't be comparing yourself to that ideal, especially if it's another person. You have to ask yourself, how far have I come from where I started? How far have I come in pursuit of that ideal or in pursuit of that goal? Because if you keep comparing yourself to the picture in your head you think you should be, then eventually you're going to discourage the crap out of yourself. Or the way that I explain this to clients is it's all about the delta. Delta in math is the lowercase Greek d, I guess, and it means the change. The delta is the change. So I had somebody come up to me while they were doing this like 90-day challenge thing, and they were like, oh, I'm so discouraged. And I'm like, oh, what's going on? They're 1 week into the challenge, and she's like, I've only lost like 3 pounds. I'm 169 pounds, but I was 149 before my kids were born. So I just have so long to go. And I'm like, okay, well, are you making progress right now? And she's like, yeah, I've lost 3 pounds, but it's just, I just thought it would go faster than this. And it's like, what? Shut up. Stop talking to me about who you were before your kids were born. That's fine. That's a great goal to work on, okay? But what you need to do is you need to measure you today versus you yesterday, or you last week, or you a month ago, whatever. The point is, the delta is what matters. And if you're making progress toward the goal, that's it. You're on the path. You're doing it. Like, that's the whole point. And maybe you could be better, and maybe you could make a little more progress, and maybe there's a few more things you can change. Fine. Awesome. But stop comparing yourself to the ideal that you think you should be every single day, because it's the most discouraging thing ever. I guess the Chinese proverb is that the journey of 1,000 miles begins with 1 step. If every single time you walked a step, you looked up and were like, oh my God, I have 1,000 miles minus 1 step to go. Oh my God, now I have 1,000 miles minus 2 steps to go. Like, how long are you going to be on this journey? You're not. You're not going to be on this journey at all. Look around, enjoy the flowers and mountains, and look how far you've come already. Stop looking at that thing, that goal, how far you have left to go. Stop looking at that and comparing yourself every day. So my take-home message here is, sure, the other people in the gym, the other people in your life who are in better health and better fitness than you are right now. And there's always someone. We have social media. Scroll through Instagram for 3 seconds. You'll find somebody with better abs than you. Fine. You have that. Okay, cool. That's an ideal. That's something that will motivate you to make a change. That's something you can put on your mirror. I don't think everybody needs to be pursuing Instagram abs, by the way. Like, they took that picture, and I'm sure there's some photoshopping done there. I'm just saying. But you have the ideal. It might motivate you to put down some alcohol. It might motivate you to cut more sugar out. It might motivate you to be a little more purposeful about your activity with your kids. Cool. That's a great motivation. But if you wake up every single morning and you go, oh man, my abs aren't quite that guy's abs, you're just going to get discouraged. You're just going to beat yourself down for no reason, because the point of this health and fitness journey was progress from who you were yesterday or who you were last week, not a constant comparison with the ideal or the vision you think you should be. So there's more to be said about goal setting and whatnot, but oh man, if you don't take anything else away, I want you to remember to compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who somebody else is today.
Rule 5. Don't let your children do anything what makes you dislike them.
Don't let your children do anything that makes you dislike them. Now, in the actual book, if you haven't read it, I highly recommend that you do. I'm a big fan of this book itself. But in the book, Jordan Peterson, in this particular rule, is walking through the pratfalls of parental discipline of children, and how there are a lot of trends today that are kind of let the children roam free and do what they need to do and do what they love and enable them, because children would just grow up perfectly if adults would just step out of the way and stop messing up their hoity-toity frolicking through flowers. And in this entire chapter, he's like, that's not true. He dives into some developmental psychology. He gives some good rules of thumb around discipline. And I'm not an expert in any of those fields. So my injunction here in Manly Monday with regard to this particular rule has to do with health and fitness. Surprise, surprise, defining dad bod. That's how I look at things. So don't let your children do anything that makes you dislike them. I'm going to step back from that a little bit and ask the question about food in your house and exercise in your house, because this is something that I hear from parents a lot, especially in a consulting environment. After you've worked with me for a bit, you know how I feel about this, and you also start to implement these things. So that's cool. But in a consulting environment, when I'm first getting to know a client, we'll talk about some of their challenges with regard to health and fitness. And a client will often say to me, well, there's a lot of food that is in the house that the kids like to eat, and I shouldn't be eating those things. So that's a real big obstacle for me. I'm like, that's interesting. Tell me more about that. Oh, the ice cream in the refrigerator, or the graham crackers in the pantry, or the, whatever, macaroni and cheese at dinner. And so I'm thinking like, okay, that's an interesting thought. I completely understand that there are some obstacles with regard to feeding yourself as a parent and feeding your kids. And there is some truth to the idea that children need something a little bit different than parents when it comes regard to nutrition. The quality of the food obviously matters for both of you. However, children have much less glycogen stores. Glycogen is the complex carbohydrate that's stored in your muscle tissue and in your liver. And you as an adult have 1,200 to 2,000 calories, given how your actual size, 1,200 to 2,000 calories of glycogen available on your body when you're well fed. Children, on the other hand, are nuking through those carbohydrates, and they don't have nearly as much stores as you do. Young children, like my 3-year-old, he's probably got 200 to 400 calories of glycogen stored on his body, and he's constantly burning through that stuff. Running around, jumping, brain development, even him sleeping, he has a much higher resting metabolic rate than I do, pound for pound. So sure, there's probably more carbohydrates in your house if you're feeding your kids, and they crave those accordingly, the fruits and the graham crackers and the whatever. All that to say, when I speak with parents about the nutritional aspect of their home life and the obstacles that having kids around presents to them, the same thing holds true as rule number 5, Jordan Peterson's 12 rules for life. Don't let your children do anything that makes you dislike them. I would never dislike my kid for his food choices in that sense, unless he doesn't eat at the table. That's a whole nother conversation. However, you're the parent. Why are you buying this crap at the grocery store if it's going to shoot your health and fitness in the foot? And this is the kicker. If it's not good for you, it's probably not good for your kids either. I'll say that again. If it's not good for you, it's probably not good for your kids either. A good example would be those little gummy fruit snacks. It's kind of funny, right? You take high fructose corn syrup, add some xanthan gum, and then press it into a grape and put grape flavoring in it so it tastes like grapes. Just get some grapes, dude. More fiber in there, a lot of good antioxidants. The corn syrup's not helping anybody, but they've got fruit snacks in their pantry. When I say they, I mean these clients who come to me and say, oh, my kid's food is an obstacle to me eating healthy. And so they've got these fruit snacks and they say, well, I shouldn't be eating that. Well, why shouldn't you be eating that? Well, Alex, didn't you say on your show that all the sugar and high fructose corn syrup, it elevates my insulin, makes it hard to have consistent energy, makes it hard to burn fat as a fuel source, teaches my brain to crave sweet things. And I'm like, yep, check. Yes, exactly. That's exactly what that will do to you. Okay. And they're like, well, my kids love them. Wait, hold up, stop for a second. Why is it okay for your kid to eat fruit snacks if you know it's bad for you? They also have an insulin system. They also have a cortisol system. They also have the dopamine and serotonin structures that respond to sugar. Why is it okay if you know it's bad for you? Why is it okay that you're getting this stuff for your kids? Now, I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer here. My kid knows what French toast is. You guys have heard me talk about that a lot. We love to get French toast on Friday mornings, and we've had ice cream together. It's not an all the time thing in the house, but we do grab ice cream maybe once a month or once every 2 months. It's a big deal in our house when we have ice cream. And I do keep a pouch of gummy bears in the very top of the pantry for incentives during reading lessons. Oh my gosh, my kid will do just about anything for one gummy bear, 3 grams of sugar, one gummy bear. All that to say, the Manly Monday injunction here is Jordan Peterson's talking about discipline. He's talking about an easy rule for life to help you raise kids who can get along well with others and who do well in the games in life and who are overall likable people so that the world opens up to them. And it's a pretty powerful conversation throughout that chapter. I am adding to that in the health and fitness perspective in saying that if the nutrition that your children are getting isn't good for you, it's probably not good for them either. And that's a big deal. And even deeper than that, unless they're teenagers buying their own food, you're the person who stocks the pantry. You're the person who stocks the refrigerator. You're the person who serves it as a meal, right? And it's hard, and I don't mean to sound preachy here, but I really want you during this week as my injunction to you on Manly Monday, stop and ask yourself, what kind of nutrition am I giving my kids? And am I doing it under the guise that, they like this stuff, and so I have to get it for them? Like, you're the parent, man. You're the parent. And if it's not good for you, it's probably not good for them. And so if you're thinking about your own personal health and fitness, a good clue that you're doing this to yourself and your kids is when you open the pantry or open the refrigerator and go, I can't have that, I can't have that, I can't have that. That's the kids' snacks. They're not good for me. If that's what you're thinking, then it's probably not good for them either. So that being said, the last thing I'll tack on to this is with regard to activity. Similarly, don't let your children do anything that makes you dislike them. Again, that's Jordan Peterson's injunction to disciplining your children well so that the world opens up to them and that they're human beings that everybody wants to be around. But from a fitness perspective, I hear this a lot with regard to screen time. Oh, my kids don't want to go out and play. All they want to do is be on their iPad, or they don't want to go hang out with their friends. They don't want to play basketball. They want to play video games. And I gotta say it again. You're the parent. Like, the iPad can go up on top of the bookshelf or limited to an hour, or however that you want to do that for your house. I know for me, it was really important while Gabriel was young and developing, and I know some of you guys have teenagers and stuff, and that's a whole nother ballgame that I know nothing about. But as he was young and developing, it was an important thing for me, especially regarding the study around verbal development, to limit screen time. And not only limit screen time, it's not like, hey, give me the phone, or hey, give me the iPad, or no, you can't play that right now. It's up to me as a parent to come up with a more active activity sometimes that he would want to be a part of, right? So that might mean, no, you don't need to watch that movie right now. Let's go to the park. Let's go to the park. Not like, I need to find something else for you to be babysitted by, right? And that's babysat. That might be the past tense of babysat, whatever. Anyway, the point is, with regard to nutrition, with regard to exercise, for rule number 5 today, don't let your children do anything that makes you dislike them. I am calling all parents, and if you're not a parent, maybe you're an aunt or maybe you're a cousin or whatever, but I'm calling you to encourage the healthy behaviors, nutrition and fitness wise, that will serve a child well throughout the rest of their life, rather than using them as an excuse to keep junk food in the house or to to enjoy too much screen time or whatever. So it's if you've got a kid, especially if they're under age 5, like most of the decisions that are made in the house are on you. Now, if you have a 13 and older child, I'm sure there are a lot of decisions that they're making, and some of them you got to kind of pick your battles there. But anyway, this has been Alex VanHouten with Defining Dad Bod. I hope you enjoyed that. Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life. I sincerely enjoy this book, and I'm continuing to go through it. But rule number 5, don't let your children do anything that makes you dislike them. And in the health and fitness world, that means stepping up to the plate and being the parent who encourages the activity with the kids, and you do that too. And checking yourself. If it's not good for you, it's probably not good for them. It doesn't need to be in your pantry or your refrigerator.
Rule 6. Set your house in perfect order before criticize the world.
Set your house in perfect order before you criticize the world. And if you've been following along Manly Mondays, we've been going through Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life, and I've been making those 12 rules applicable to the world of health and fitness. Jordan Peterson does a pretty fantastic job of making those things interesting and powerful all by themselves. And so I don't purport to be a developmental psychologist or behavioral psychologist in any form or fashion, but I believe these truths and rules apply directly to the pursuits of what I'm talking about in Defining Dad Bod, which is the world of exercise, nutrition, and lifestyle change, and leaving a legacy of health and fitness for your kids by being the best version of yourself. So what does it mean to set your house in perfect order before you criticize the world? Well, in Jordan Peterson's chapter, that rule number 6 from 12 Rules for Life, he's talking about the idea that there are some people who believe that they have all of the answers for society, but you could walk into their room and it's a mess. Or you could talk to them about their own personal health, or maybe their relationship with their family, and it's all a mess. And so one of his injunctions in 12 Rules for Life is that you have to own yourself. You have to be personally responsible before you can start criticizing other people and telling them what to do and telling other people how they should be living their lives and stuff. And so, without being terribly political, because this could be a very heavily political topic, I do want to talk about that in relationship to health and fitness. So in relationship to health and fitness, what does it mean to set your house in perfect order before you criticize the world? Well, if you were with me last week, I talked about the idea of not letting your children do anything that makes you dislike them, and how you set the tone of nutrition and exercise in your own household. But you can carry that quite a bit further. And so today I'm going to talk about a concept everybody understands called cheat days or cheat meals. I was teaching a seminar in front of a bunch of personal trainers at one point in my career. Actually, I've taught a lot of such seminars, but one of the questions that the trainers brought to me is, "Hey, Alex, what do you think about cheat meals or cheat days?" And so we rapped about it a little bit. One of the concepts being, hey, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So don't call it a cheat meal. Let's say this is a planned quality of life excursion, because as you might know, I love French toast, and French toast isn't the best thing for my own health and fitness, but man, life is just a little bit more worth living if I can enjoy French toast with my son every once in a while. So a quality of life excursion, a conscious decision to eat something you know is not necessarily the best for you, but it's good, and it's good to share with other people. So with that being said, we talked about the concept of cheat meals and cheat days and whatnot. And one of the things that I brought up, and this is directly in relationship to setting your house in perfect order before you criticize the world, is I asked the room, do you eat fast food? And there was silence for a second. McDonald's, Wendy's, Sonic, do you eat fast food? And a few of the people said, yeah, every once in a while. And this is a room full of trainers, okay? This is a group of people whose job it is to teach other people how to exercise, eat well, and promote a good lifestyle that's going to help them recover from their workouts, right? So you ask this room full of trainers, do you eat fast food? And they're like, oh yeah, sure, okay, yeah. And I say, do you think fast food is good for the world? And well, they're like, no. Like most of my clients, I wish they would completely stay away from fast food. And so my question is, then why are you voting for it? Why do you even put $1 in the hands of the people who can sell a hamburger for 99 cents and make a profit? Like, what the hell is that hamburger made out of? If you can sell it for 99 cents, I mean, you got the bun, you've got the condiments, you've got the beef, whatever that is, and you can sell it for 99 cents and make a profit. That's astronomically strange to me. However, we as trainers are still paying $1 to vote to keep this thing going, because any business, as long as they're making a profit, they'll stay around, right? So with that being said, the question of setting your house in perfect order before you criticize the world, I hear this a lot in the health and fitness world. I hear this a lot. People criticizing other people for the way they operate their own health and fitness. Like, hey, they shouldn't be eating that, or man, that person, needs to really take their health and fitness seriously. Like, you can see that they're not doing what they need to do, or talking about health problems, or even the guy doing bicep curls in the squat rack, right? When you yourself take your own understanding of health and fitness and you start criticizing other people, what's really interesting about it is if you really dive deep into how you're spending your money and how you're spending your time, you might be part of the problem. And that's a big deal. That's a really big deal. And I don't mean to be preachy about this in particular, even purist about this in particular, but I'm speaking from the perspective of children, because children, if you're a parent, you know this to be 100% true. Children don't buy your crap. They know exactly who you are and what you actually do, not just what you say, not just what you hope you are. They see who you are and what you actually do. Your children have probably run to Burger King with you when there was nothing else to eat in the house, and you're like, you know what, screw it, we're going to fast food, right? Your children were also there when you were bad-mouthing the kids' parents next door about why you shouldn't eat chicken nuggets for breakfast or something like that. I don't know if I've had chicken nuggets for breakfast, but you hear what I'm saying. Anyway, the point is this injunction, rule number 6 in Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life: set your house in perfect order before you criticize the world. All of us have an opportunity to make ourselves better and thereby making our communities better. And we have an opportunity to make sure that our own personal health and fitness reflects exactly what it is that we want our house to stand for, what we want our bodies to stand for, hence Defining Dad Bod, and then what we want our children to practice going forward. So my question to you and my challenge to you for Manly Monday this week on September 10th is: what actions, what time, what money, what actions are you performing during your week that aren't in line with who you are in the health and fitness side of things? What money are you spending on food you shouldn't be eating or shouldn't be giving to your kids? What time are you spending on things that aren't good for your health and fitness? That could look something like too many hours spent on Netflix and not enough hours spent doing cardio. What actions are you performing in a day that are counter-current to your current health and fitness goals? It could be the choice to get a Starbucks Frappuccino rather than a normal black coffee. It could be the decision to have a cheat meal with a company that you don't agree with the majority of what they're spreading to the community around you. And so you're supporting them with your dollars. It could be something as simple as your kids really, really like the high fructose corn syrup snack packs in the grocery aisle, and at the same time you're blasting all over the internet about how high fructose corn syrup is bad for everybody, but you've got those in your pantry. My question to you and my challenge to you on Manly Monday is to be authentic with your own personal health and fitness for you and your household before you go criticizing other people's health and fitness. The way I see it is most of us do want to be a better version of ourselves. Doesn't mean everybody does, but most of us do want to be a better version of ourselves. And if we took it upon ourselves to lead by example, you might be extremely surprised at, one, how many people follow you, and two, how many opportunities for improvement we all have. So with all that being said, I will say that the way I enjoy my French toast with my son as I go down to a local diner, I love the way that they support local farms and whatnot by doing farm to table sourcing. And that's where I enjoy my French toast with Gabriel. And I agree with what they're doing. And if I'm going to have a cheat day, it's going to be an opportunity for me to live authentically for myself, share some French toast with my kid, and enjoy a conscious quality of life stop into French toast.
Rule 7. Pursue what is meaningful.
So what does it mean to do what is meaningful, not what is expedient in health and fitness? Well, first, I think it matters to define the word expedient in relation to health and fitness. So expedient can mean a few different things, but very simply, expedient means the most utilitarian thing, or the most productive, simplest thing, or to say to do what is meaningful, not what is expedient. When you go in the expedient world, it's not just like, what's the next best step in health and fitness? I could say, all right, cut out sugar because that'll be good for your abs and that'll be good for your energy and that'll be good for your fat burn, right? That's expedient. That'll get you on the path to your goal relatively quickly. However, when we say do what is meaningful, not what is expedient, that's a pretty challenging injunction, especially for me as a trainer in the industry for 13 years, because most of the time that I've worked with clients, I've spent a lot of energy trying to help them figure out what the most expedient thing is. What's the thing you can do right now that's going to get you the best results in the shortest amount of time, that's sustainable, so that you want to keep coming back to me and I want to keep training you, and both of us are motivated and committed to you and your fitness goals. That's expedient, right? When I sit down with a client, I did an entire show in December. I want to say December 2017. I did an entire show called Don't Make Dumb Goals. And it was about the SMART goals process, walking you through the conversation of what is your fitness goal, how specific, measurable, attractive, realistic, and timely is it, and how to walk through each of those pieces. That's expedient. That's like measuring out the goal and really understanding what matters within the goal. However, I would always come to the letter A. Why is this goal attractive to you? And at the core of the health and fitness goal is your why. I think it was Nietzsche who said, "He who has a why can bear any how." And I think that's where this rule really comes to life here on Manly Monday for Defining Dad Bod, to do what is meaningful and not what is expedient. So I'm sure in the health and fitness world, you have some goals. You might want to lose some body fat. You might want to get off some blood pressure medication. You might want to stave off some sort of disease that runs in your family, and you're trying to be in great shape for that. Maybe you're just really happy to be training for some kind of performance goal, like running a marathon or lifting, 100-pound Turkish get up over your head or something like that, right? Or maybe you're just trying to keep up with your kids and have consistent energy and show up well at work and look good in your suit and not have to buy new pants. Whatever it is, that's an expedient fitness goal, right? That's an expedient fitness goal. That's something that's productive and probably good for you and probably good for your community. That's expedient. But the question is, what makes it meaningful? What's the meaningful fitness goal for you? Or what's the why behind, looking good and losing the fat you want to lose? What's the why for fitting into your pants? What's the why for getting off of that medication? What's the why for keeping up with your kids? What is the deeper meaning behind those expedient fitness goals? If you're just now joining me live for Manly Monday, we're on Rule 7 for 12 Rules for Life with Jordan Peterson. And that rule is do what is meaningful, not what is expedient. And so our fitness goals oftentimes are expedient. Our fitness goals oftentimes are to look better in the mirror, or to reduce that waist circumference, or just, all around eat better. Maybe you're trying to cut out alcohol. Maybe you're trying to reduce the amount of sugar in your world. Maybe you're trying to increase the number of veggies you eat, or get your kids on the same page, or go for a run every morning, or whatever. Those are expedient. And I'm not saying those are bad. But here's the thing about expedient health and fitness goals. Sooner or later, something happens in life that doesn't allow you your normal routine. Sooner or later, something goes down that requires you to either prioritize things above your own personal health and fitness, or to hold really steady, make some adjustments, but hold really steady with those health and fitness goals. So here's an example. My personal health and fitness goal, my expedient goal, is to compete in the American Ninja Warrior show. That's something that I'm really gunning for. And I work really hard to stay injury free, to be strong, to look good on camera or whatever. I hear the actual camera adds 10 pounds. I don't know if this camera does. This is a special camera that doesn't add 10 pounds. I guess. Anyway, the point is, I want to compete in American Ninja Warrior, and I want to look great doing it. I want to do a great job. I don't want to be one of those guys who works really hard, gets on the show, and then falls off of the first obstacle. All right. I've been working on this goal for 4 years. All right. I have Ehlers-Danlos, tendons and ligaments don't like me very much. I'm very prone to injury. It's not easy, right? And when Gabriel was born, 3 years ago, when Gabriel was born, the Train for American Ninja Warrior thing, I wouldn't say it's put on hold, but man, I was sleep deprived. Power training and strength training while sleep deprived is not good. Reference how to work out while sleep deprived, right? I was on the bourbon and brownies diet, really. I've talked about it before. Testosterone and serotonin drop when a new baby enters the world. Cortisol goes up, and man, you're craving sugar. And one of the things that makes you feel good is bourbon and brownies. That's where I was with Gabriel being firstborn. And honestly, Kristen was recovering. I was sleep deprived and trying to work and stuff. And so in that time frame, the whole American Ninja Warrior expedient fitness goal, have a good body fat percentage, lift weights regularly, stay in great shape, look good on camera. That expedient fitness goal was literally null and void, right? That's not a priority. Compete in American Ninja Warrior when your 2-month-old is waking you up in the middle of the night and you're struggling just to be able to drive home from work without falling asleep at the wheel, right? When you have an expedient fitness goal and something big happens in life, all of that falls apart. All of that doesn't matter anymore. All of that literally falls on its face. And here is where the meaningful comes in. Because for me, when Gabriel was born, I had to find some kind of deeper meaning for my health and fitness. Competing in American Ninja Warrior for me was socking it to my genetic disorder. Yeah, you shouldn't be able to hang from the monkey bars without your wrist popping out, but watch me crush the salmon ladder, right? It was socking it to that. I was yeah, I'm getting the better of this disease, right? And also it was, I'm a personal trainer. Staying in top peak physical condition for myself was a good way to set an example for my clients and stuff. So it wasn't just a namby-pamby goal. It was a really big goal, right? But in the dark night of the soul, in the 3 months of sleep deprivation and breastfeeding and changing poopy diapers and waking up at 2 a.m. and just going what has happened to my world? In the dark night of the soul, your fitness and health has to be more than an expedient goal. Your fitness and health has to be more than reducing my waist size and fitting into my clothes better, or competing for that marathon that I really want to run in. It has to be deeper than that. And that's actually in that time frame for me. That's where Defining Dad Bod actually came from. You might wonder, defining, why is that a participle? If you're an English person, you'll appreciate that. Why is that a participle? Why is that a journey? Defining Dad Bod. Truly because I was working to find what it means, and I still am, what it means to be a dad and what my body has to do with that whole piece. And for me, having a meaningful fitness goal over the expedient fitness goal. Compete in American Ninja Warrior. Become a dad. Figure out what that means. That was a deeper calling, and that was something that I could sincerely get behind. What's up, Chris? Thanks for joining me, man. If you're just now joining me, we're going through Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life. This morning's Manly Monday is Rule 7. Do what is meaningful, not what is expedient. And so I'm talking about my expedient fitness goal: compete in American Ninja Warrior, reduce my body fat, stay strong, powerful, all that good stuff, stave off injury. And all of that went by the wayside for a while when my son was born. And when things in life happen, your expedient fitness goal falls on its face. I have a client who I'm working with right now who just started a new job, and love this guy to death. I've been working with him for a while. He went from 230 pounds down to 168, a solid 168 too. He's looking great. And that has happened over the past 8 months. It's been great. 230 pounds down to 168. Good job, man. Kicking butt, taking names. Started a new job. And like margaritas every Saturday, like trying to get to and from work, eating weird crap. He's not getting his cardio in like he's used to doing, and all this stuff. And he's gained about 12 pounds in the last 2 weeks, gained about 12 pounds. And he's so discouraged, man. He's like, what the heck? What did I do to myself? And I, hey, thanks, Chris. I appreciate that. I'm talking to him. I'm like, look, man, you got a baby on the way. He's got a baby on the way. Started a new job. First of all, you got to give yourself some grace. This is a hard time in life. This is a transitional period. But man, when you're about to become a dad and you've started a new job and stuff, you need to look yourself in the mirror and know you're not the star in your own movie anymore, man. Your fitness has to stand for something more than just, oh, I'd really like to look good when I go out with my friends, and I hope my clothes fit a little bit better. And, you know, I really like to lift weights. It's kind of my me time, you know, it's really good. It's got to stand for more than that. It has to. And if it's just an expedient fitness goal, you can rest assured that starting a new job and having a new baby, and oh shit, the holidays are coming up, all of those things are going to help you fall flat on your face. You're going to mess up your exercise regimen. You're going to lean on the margaritas a little bit heavier. You're going to be like, tonight I would rather, instead of going to the gym, I'd rather just hang out and watch Netflix. It's going to have to mean something deeper than that, because if it's all about, oh, I need to look good in the mirror, and oh, like that Instagram guy really inspired me with his biceps, or man, I got to wear these clothes for this work. I mean, maybe on a day-to-day basis, every once in a while, that'll encourage you to make some minor changes. But if it doesn't mean something deeper, if you're not creating some sort of heaven of health and fitness for your family to run toward, and a hell of health and fitness for your family to run away from, you're not going to make it. You're not going to keep up with your exercise. You're not going to keep up with your nutrition. You're not going to keep up with a positive and healthy lifestyle. And so on Manly Monday today, with rule number 7, do what is meaningful, not what is expedient. My challenge to you is this: take some time to think about this, meditate on this, maybe even talk to your spouse or your significant other here. And I want you to define, what does health and fitness hell look like for you? What demons are you running from? Right? I was running this morning, actually, on my run, and I'm thinking, like, you know, it's such a cool physical depiction of life. I'm both running away from my starting point and running toward something, and that's fitness, man. What are you running from? What's the thing or things that could just eat your family alive, that could just eat you alive as a man? And if you're a woman watching this, it's the same thing. What is it that could get you, man? Is it like, hey, you know, Chris Vanderslice is on here, dude, I love you, you're so cool. This guy is a trainer of over 20 years. You know, one of the things that this cat's running from, he's not 20 anymore, all right? And if he let his body go, his livelihood for his family wouldn't be there, because who wants to train with a trainer who doesn't look the part? And Chris looks the part. High five, man. Defining Dad Bod hardcore. If I were in his shoes, that's something I'd be running from. You know, something I'm running from, I don't want to be laid up on the couch with this Ehlers-Danlos disease and unable to go play with my kid and have to be hooked on pain medications. That's something I'm running from. To me, that's health and fitness hell, man. Those are the demons I'm not going to be a part of, right? But at the same time, there's a heaven, there's a positive picture ahead for me and my family. I got another boy on the way. I want to be the family who's wrestling in the floor. I want to be the dad who is, playing with his kids at the park and not stuck on my cell phone. I want to be able to pick up my kids and throw them around and, shake my horns at them or whatever it is that boys need you to do, so that the old man isn't the old man, right? In the future, that's what I want. And I know I've got heart disease and cancer and thyroid dysfunction in my family. That's something that I don't want in my family either. And I'm running forward to that. So my injunction to you here on Manly Monday is define the demons that you're running from, define the heaven that you're running toward, and make your health and fitness a beautiful piece of meaning right in the middle of those two, so that you have something to run from and you have something to run toward. And sure, those expedient goals, they're powerful. Body fat percentage, VO2 max, fitting into certain pants and looking a certain way at work and getting off of medications and all that stuff. All of those are amazing measures of progress. But what's going to hold you up when the stuff hits the fan is the things that you're running from and the things that you're running toward.
Rule 8. Tell the truth, or at least don't lie.
Tell the truth, or at least don't lie. Now, what the heck does not lying have to do with health and fitness? I'm glad you asked. Let's dive into it. So first, I learned through the last 13 years of my experience in the health and fitness world two things. One, many clients don't know the truth about their own health and fitness in general. So the external truth, like what science matters in relationship to them, what kind of diets maybe they should be following, what kind of exercise programs they should be doing. And so in the sense, when we talk about telling the truth or at least not lying, it helps to actually know the truth. So one, many clients didn't know the truth with regard to the external health and fitness science, right? That's one. But two, even more profoundly, and it's something that Jordan Peterson's talking about in relationship to speaking the truth, or at least not speaking lies. But in the health and fitness world, what's important, or something that I found was important in working with clients, is that the truth of your actual everyday habits with regard to health and fitness, it's important to know that what that actually looks like. And so there's the external truth of the science of health and fitness, like what should I be eating? How should I be exercising? How many steps should I get a day? Should I be setting a bedtime and a wake time for myself? That kind of stuff. And we're bombarded with all kinds of information, most of it saying it's the truth, but much of it being either one, sensationalized research, or two, incomplete research in the realm of health and fitness. But even more importantly, I used to get frustrated about this as a trainer, and I'll tell you a story to illustrate. More importantly, most people don't know the truth about their own health and fitness, period. So I'll give you an example. I would talk to people and I would say, how's your health and fitness going? How's our workouts going? They'd be working with me for like 3 months. They would implement a good exercise program, a good, cardiovascular homework program. They would be logging their food and bringing it to our sessions, and I wouldn't be seeing any red flags. And I would ask, how's this going? And they're like, I'm not really seeing the change I'd like to see. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not seeing that either. That's kind of strange. So our food's on point, our exercise is on point. What's going on? And like, I'm eating pretty well and stuff. And it would go on like this for a couple weeks before it would just come out in conversation. Oh yeah, I went out with my girlfriends last night and I had like way too many margaritas. So I'm still kind of feeling it this morning. I'm like, that's not in your food journal. Like, where in it does it say you had 6 margaritas? Like, I'm missing that part, right? They're like, oh, you want me to put alcohol in there too? Yes, I do. Yes, I want you to put alcohol in here. And what was crazy to me as a trainer is at the time I'd get really frustrated. Like, how can you lie to me so hard, client? Like, where I'm trying to help you lose fat, I'm trying to help you gain muscle, trying to help you change your life for the better. But what was crazy to me is that the longer I worked in the training industry and the more I spoke with people, the more I understood that they didn't know that their alcohol consumption was a truth of their health and fitness regimen. When I said log your food, everything that goes into your mouth, I want to know about it. I want to know about what you're drinking. I want you to put that all on a piece of paper. Somehow the margarita didn't register. The margarita didn't register as, hey, I should probably write that down, right? And even crazier, when you have a client who would finally go, okay, yeah, I'm going to write down what I do, when I go out with my friends. It would just say, went out with friends, bad. Like, went out with friends, bad. And I'll never forget, I'm like, what's bad mean? And I'm like, oh, I had a few drinks and I ate this and I ate that. Like, no, itemize it. I want you to tell me exactly what it is that you did while you were out. I want you to write it all down. I want you to itemize it. Most people don't know. They were just kind of, nonchalantly going about their time, having a great old time and drinking whatever they want, and eating whatever they want. And it's there and it's good and it's nice, but you're not even aware. And it's not your fault. Yeah, I will. I'll keep preaching. It's not necessarily your fault in the sense that nobody's asked you to be that aware of the truth of what you're putting into your body. And I had on the flip side of this, I had one client that she said, I was with friends and I went to this party and stuff, and I looked around and I was like, man, I could eat all of this stuff. None of it's probably good for me. But then I'd have to write down every little thing that I ate in order to bring it to Alex's session. So instead of doing that, I'm going to stick with this one, salad sandwich platter thing. I'll eat that, and then I'm just not even going to go to the finger food area because it's going to be a pain just to write it all down. And I'm like, yes, score 1 for the truth. So as we're talking about tell the truth, or at least don't lie, what I've found for many people is, even outside of understanding the truths of health and fitness, it's important that you understand your own personal truth. What habits are you performing right now in your life that are shooting yourself in the foot? Are you really like, I'm trying everything to lose weight? Are you really trying to exercise? How often are you exercising? Are you logging that? Are you like, yes, on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, I was successful in going to the gym and getting my workout in. I did a great run. I ran a few miles and it was awesome. And bam, that was a great week. Or you're like, man, I'm really trying to exercise. But when I dig down into it, you're really only getting like 1 day a week of exercise in. Well, the rest of the week, you bought a gym membership, but you're not using it. I'm really trying to exercise, right? And I'm not stomping your toes here. This is real. You have to be true to yourself about what you're actually doing in health and fitness. I hear this a lot. I'm trying to eat healthy. What does that look like? Are you just walking around all day and thinking like, I should probably eat healthy. I should really try to eat healthy. Or are you describing the fact that you just feel really bad when you don't eat what excuse me. Are you describing the fact that you feel really bad that you're eating things you shouldn't eat, for instance? Like, that's trying to eat healthy. Are you keeping a food journal? Are you writing those things down so that yeah, I'm trying to eat healthy? And by trying, I mean I look at my food journal every week and I work with somebody to get an idea of what I could be doing better at breakfast, or I work with somebody to give me a better idea of what kind of snacks I should be eating while I'm running through the airport or whatever, right? For many people, trying to be healthier means I bought my supplements and they've been sitting in my pantry collecting dust for the last 2 months, but I don't actually take my fish oil, my multivitamin, or drink a protein shake. So with regard to this particular this particular rule in Jordan Peterson's book, Tell the Truth, or at least Don't Lie, he's talking about what we actually say. Understanding that we have control over our speech, and there are things that we could say, there are things that we could refrain from saying that may or may not be true, and we need to be really careful about what's coming out of our mouth. With regard to health and fitness, before even worrying about what's true out there with regard to research and how you should be exercising and what you should be eating, it's important to check in and be truthful with yourself. Check in and be truthful with yourself about what you're already doing that is likely shooting your health and fitness in the foot. Here's another one that I get pretty often in the health and fitness world. Somebody will come to me and say, I'll say, what's your big fitness goal right now? What really matters to you? And they'll come in and they're 5'7" and they're 280 pounds. Okay. They're obviously overweight. They've obviously been less fat in their life. Okay. And they walk in and they go, man, I'm really training for a marathon. So I'm a trainer and I'm going to follow this path a little bit. And I will say, okay, tell me about that marathon goal. That's awesome. Have you ever run a marathon before? Why does this matter to you right now? And we will get through an entire session without them saying one time, I'd really like to lose weight. I'd really like to clean up my nutrition. I'd really like to get on a regular exercise regimen. They're like, no, I'm going to run this marathon. Okay, I want to train you for a marathon, but here's the truth. Every extra pound you have on your body is 7 extra pounds on your knees every time your foot hits the ground, okay? Your knees are not going to last through a marathon if you're significantly overweight. And so when you are thinking about your health and fitness goals, you have to be truthful with yourself. You have to be truthful. And I know it's hard, but you have to be truthful. Why are we running this marathon? Well, I know running will help me drop weight, and weight is something I would really like to address in my life. Why do you want to address weight? Ask yourself even more deeply, why do you want to address weight? Maybe you want to look good naked, fine. But there are a lot deeper reasons than that. My dad died of a heart attack when I was 50. I haven't looked in the mirror and seen myself since my last child was born. I look at myself and I'm like, who is that lady? I've never met her before in my life and I don't recognize her, right? You have to be truthful with yourself about your health and fitness, because what's crazy about health and fitness goals is most of them go way deeper than health and fitness. Health and fitness is not an end in itself. It's a means to an end. It's a means to live a high quality, high quantity life. And when you get really real about your goals, I'd like to lose 10 pounds. I'd like to get rid of this pain in my lower back. I'd like to get off my medications that I don't think I should be taking. I would like to be eating better food that I don't have to feel guilty about. I would like to fit back into the clothes I used to wear that I can't wear anymore. When you're truthful about those goals, one, you're going to have a much deeper emotional connection to them, and you'll be able to identify the habits in your life that run counter to those goals. It's one thing to go, you're out with your friends, right? And you're having a great time, the music's good, you've had one drink already, you could have another and some buffalo wings, right? It's one thing to say, I don't know, I'm really trying to lose that extra 5 pounds and my trainer won't like it if I do this. That's one thing. It's another thing to say, you know what, I need to stop at one drink because I know I'm prone to overeating when I've had a few drinks. And I know that this kind of stuff is what led to type 2 diabetes in my family. And there's a lot of people really getting wrecked by that kind of thing. Or you might further say, I'm setting an example for my daughter right now. And for me, it's really important that I can live in integrity and say, hey, I had one drink last night, had a great time with my friends. I didn't need to go overboard. And be able to say the same thing to your daughter when she's like, Mom, how do you deal with the work and the friends and the alcohol and the food and stuff? How do you balance all this stuff? Well, honey, let me tell you how I do that. It's not that I binge and then I work myself out on Saturday. It's that I navigate these things intelligently and with a high degree of authenticity. So for Manly Monday, tell the truth, but at least don't lie. Rule number 8 in Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life. My injunction to you is 1, be truthful with yourself about the habits that you are performing every single day that are likely shooting you in the foot. Here are some helpful things that you can be doing. 1, if you're not already doing it, keep a food journal. Write down every little thing that goes in your face. I don't care about calories. I really don't even care about the time of day. Just write it down. Like use an old school spiral notebook, right? Use an old school spiral notebook and just write it. I know there's apps for that. And if you're really technologically savvy, have at it. But for me, I feel like I have enough screen time myself. So I prefer to write this kind of thing down. Journal your food. Journal every single thing that goes in your mouth. And what's crazy is you'll start to become aware and you'll start to be truthful about what you're eating, when you're eating it, and why you're eating it. Maybe you're eating it because you're bored. Maybe you're eating it because you skipped breakfast and now you're hungry enough to eat the kitchen sink, right? Maybe you're eating it because you're in a social situation. You're not really hungry, but it seems like the thing to be doing right now is grab something to eat rather than engage in conversation or whatever the case is. So journal your food. It can be a really, really, really powerful, really times 5. Really powerful tool to help you be truthful about what you're actually eating. Number 2, if you don't have an activity monitor, put one on, a little Fitbit. It's actually ironic. I wear mine all the time. I think you can see the tan line if you look close enough, but it's on the charger right now. It's ironic that I'm talking about it and not wearing it, because these should count as some steps, man. So wear an activity monitor. Is it going to tell you extremely accurately how many calories you burned a day, or to the letter how many steps you got? No, but it's really good for trends over time. And if you're being truthful with yourself about health and fitness, you can be truthful about the days that you struggle to get the amount of activity that you need in order to be healthy and fit. For me, my hardest days are Mondays and Wednesdays. I have a large amount of admin work on those days. Even though I'm standing here talking to you, I don't get a lot of steps or activity this way. So I have to be really conscious on Mondays and Wednesdays to take breaks, go for walks, hang out with Gabriel around the block, do some burpees in the backyard or whatever it is. And these days also generally leave me pretty drained feeling. And so I'm much more apt at the end of today to go, kick it and watch Netflix than to go do something active at the park, like would be better for me and would be better for my son, right? So wear an activity monitor to be truthful about how much activity you're actually getting and where your opportunities for improvement are. Number 3, make yourself an exercise checklist. For my clients, they get an email from me every single day that says, this is what your job is today at the gym or at your house or wherever it is that you're working out. This is what your job is. This is what your program is. Each movement has the opportunity for you to check it off the list and even make some notes about how you performed and whatnot. That's fantastic. I own that for them. If you don't have a coach or are not interested in one, you should still have a checklist this week for your exercise, to be truthful with yourself, to be truthful with other people you might be partnering with to support you in your exercise program. And hell, if you're following a great exercise program, that means you're progressing every week, and you should have a record of that. Again, an old school spiral notebook can get it done, but you could also print something out to stick on your fridge and check off as you get it done. And then last but not least, in being truthful about your own health and fitness with yourself so that you can be truthful about moving forward and finding what you need to know about exercise and nutrition and lifestyle change in the world, is to get an assessment done. If you haven't had an assessment done recently, there's some metrics I really recommend getting done. First, let's be real here. Weight and circumference are important. Weight is not everything you need to know about your health and fitness, so don't put so much stock into that number, but you should know what you weigh right now, and you should know how that weight relates to how everything on your body looks or is I don't know, what's the word, diameters through, perimeters around. It's been a while since geometry. So circumference is like bicep, neck, chest. Waist is around your belly button. Hips is around your legs, buttocks, and hip area, and then thighs and calves. Those measures, circumference measures, are really important to have. They reflect exactly how your clothes fit, in addition to reflecting whether or not maybe you've gained some muscle or maybe you've got some midsection ratio problems going on with your visceral fat. It's an important thing to be truthful and to know about yourself. So weight, circumference. You should also have a posture assessment done. You can easily stand up against the wall and see if those 5 points connect. I've done several shows on things like that. A good personal trainer would be able to do a postural assessment on you as well. And you could also get your resting heart rate. So after you've relaxed for about 10 to 20 minutes, what is your heart rate there? And then what's your blood pressure, your resting blood pressure? Those are good metrics to have as well. And if you have access to it, a good performance measure is VO2. It's directly related to cardiovascular disease. The higher your VO2, that is the volume of oxygen you can exchange through breath, into your metabolic system and then exhale in the form of carbon dioxide. That directly reflects your cardiovascular health and fitness and your metabolic processes. There are some simple field tests to get that done. I myself, with my clients, I use the whole metabolic analyzer. That's the much more scientific way to put it, to analyze VO2 and to help somebody know exactly where they're at. So as a recap for Manly Monday, rule number 8, tell the truth, or at least don't lie. Jordan Peterson is talking about what you choose to say, whether it's a lie or the truth, and explains how the deeply important parts of our culture rely on us being honest and authentic individuals who know ourselves well and choose to put that out into the world in an authentic way. What I'm telling you today with regard to health and fitness in my experience with clients is that even aside from the truth that we do or don't know from all the information thrown at us in the health and fitness world, most people aren't being real with themselves about how their health and fitness is going and what habits they're performing every single day that are likely shooting them in the foot with regard to their health and fitness goals. So for Manly Monday, start tracking your food if you're not already doing it. Be real about what's going into your mouth. Start tracking your activity if you're not already doing it. Be real about the times that you're not as active as you should be and work hard to fix those in a positive direction. Start tracking your exercise and keeping track of how that's actually moving forward for you. So if you need some help, you can reach out. And last but not least, get an assessment done to be real with yourself about those physiological metrics that tell you the truth about how your engine's running on the inside.
Rule 9. Assume that the person you're listening to might know something you don't.
Rule number 9 is assume that the person you are listening to has or knows something you don't. Or the way I think of it is assume that the person you're listening to has something that they can teach you. Now, this is not just relevant to the health and fitness world. However, my experience has come mainly from the health and fitness world, and therefore I'll have something to say about that in a second. But this injunction extends past the health and fitness world, and so I'm excited to talk to you about it today. Now, why is this relevant to the health and fitness world? I want you to picture this scenario, okay? Now, this might be more real to me because I've worked in gym settings, I've worked in wellness corporations, I've worked with personal trainers for a long time. But imagine you walk into a gym and you see somebody doing something crazy and just absurd. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, YouTube gym fails. And there are several minutes of gut-wrenching, scary, sometimes funny things that you see in the gym. Some trainers might call this our personal pet peeves with regard to health and fitness. There might be some guy in the squat rack doing barbell bicep curls. And that's just frustrating. If you're not a trainer, let me explain real quick. A squat rack is a very important piece of gym real estate used for things like squats and deadlifts and pull-ups. And if you are in there doing bicep curls, when you could be doing bicep curls anywhere else in the gym, then you are monopolizing very important gym real estate, and everybody who wants to do squats and wants to do deadlifts and wants to do weighted pull-ups, and that's the only piece of equipment they can do it on, everybody's mad at you. So don't be that guy, right? But when you walk into a gym setting like that, you see that very often, or maybe even on Facebook, you see things like people purporting the keto diet, like you should go keto. It's been really good for me here. Find out my story more here. Or you might hear things about specific supplements people are taking that they really want you to jump on board with so that they can get their multi-level marketing commission. And no offense to you if you're an MLM person, nothing against you at all. However, my point in the health and fitness world is that we are bombarded constantly, and we are also not just bombarded constantly, but we're also privy to seeing things in the health and fitness industry that raise a red flag or a big giant question mark. And so I say all this to tell you that in the health and fitness world, there is an extreme disdain developing in fitness. What do I mean by disdain? I mean, if somebody has something to say that either one, doesn't ring true for you, two, you've been there, done that, got that t-shirt, or three, maybe you've heard information to the contrary already, you automatically label that person as irrelevant or not knowing what they're talking about, or even stupid. And in the fitness industry, that level of disdain is disconcerting to me. It's very disconcerting to me. I've spent 13 years in the fitness industry, and I promise you, I've spent my fair share of time reading volumes and volumes of research and also witnessing all kinds of things that are contrary to what health and fitness truths actually are. However, there's something that I hope to get across to you today that is a very important thing that we all have in common if we care about health and fitness. Whether you're that guy doing bicep curls in the squat rack, we're all mad at you, by the way. Whether you're that guy doing bicep curls in the squat rack, or the latest proponent of the ketogenic diet, or you just cut out all of the gluten in your world, but you still eat muffins. They don't have gluten in them, so they're healthy, right? Whether you're any of those people, what I have to say to you here is I am so proud and so inspired by your desire to better yourself. I'm so proud and so inspired by your desire to better yourself. In my mind, if you walked through the doors of the gym today, or you have a conscious eye turned on your diet, even if it's on insufficient evidence, I am so happy that you're part of the team of people who are trying to do right by themselves in the physical fitness world, because the world needs more of that. The world needs more people who are conscientiously trying to do good in their exercise, nutrition, and lifestyle. The world needs more people who, instead of watching Netflix again, they are in the gym trying to do something good for their bodies. And so as we go through Rule 9 today, assume that the person you're listening to has something that they might teach you. I want to challenge everybody here in the health and fitness side of things. If somebody's trying to better themselves, please approach that person rather than an attitude of disdain. Have an attitude of gratitude and an attitude of thankfulness and graciousness and camaraderie even, because there is precious few people in the world who are actively working to pursue a better lifestyle, better exercise, and better nutrition for themselves and their families. And even if they're doing it wrong, in your opinion, even if they're doing it wrong, they're trying, they're giving it an effort, and it is very, very hard to change habits and very, very hard to stick with anything, any healthy obsession, even if it's wrong, even if it's scientifically wrong. So before I get into this in particular from a health and fitness perspective, I want to implore everybody on Manly Monday with this injunction from Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life. Assume that the person you're listening to might know something you don't. Don't approach people in the health and fitness world with disdain. First, approach people with a heart of camaraderie, because they're trying, you're trying. Maybe you've done more reading than they have, or maybe their personal metabolism and their personal lifestyle and their personal exercise program knows something you don't, and you might learn from that. So with that injunction, and with that being said, let's talk a little bit about what we could do better from a Manly Monday perspective this week. First, have the humility to ask more questions before you tell somebody something. This happens a lot on Facebook. You know, somebody's like, all people who aren't vegans are bad and you're evil cow killers, or something like that. And then you see like this giant thread of hundreds of comments and responses, and people, you know, put their 1 or 2 cents in. And it's weird. It's really weird to me too, because this is a new phenomenon for me. About a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I would have said this only happens in the political sphere, but this really happens hardcore in health and fitness. And so my injunction to you when engaging people online or engaging people in a gym setting, if you approach that person, assuming that perhaps they have something to teach you, then you're going to come from the perspective of listening to what they have to say and asking further questions, asking a little bit deeper, like, oh yeah, I do the ketogenic diet, I've lost like 30 pounds, it's going really well for me. If you say at that point, well, ketosis is just kind of stupid, unless you have epilepsy or you're diabetic or, you know, you're addicted to crack cocaine, like there's really no reason that your body should be depending on ketones. Why are you drinking ketones, right? I actually have a close acquaintance in the exercise and fitness community who represents the United States at the national level for Olympic lifting. This guy does cleans, he does snatches, he does clean and jerk, and he is an amazing athlete. And this guy follows a ketogenic diet. Now, I don't personally follow the ketogenic diet, but the guy swears by it, has had amazing results with it from a performance perspective. And it's really hard to come across really well-learned people in the health and fitness industry. He's been training for 20 years, by the way, who have that case study research on themselves. And he would be the first to tell you, this isn't right for everybody. There are some of my clients who this matches really well, and some of my clients it doesn't. And what's really wild is if I met this guy in the gym and started talking to him, he's like, yeah, I follow a ketogenic diet and it's working really well for me. If I started this conversation by saying, well, that's stupid, let me tell you why, then I'd miss out on the opportunity to get to know somebody who can throw way more weight over their head than I can, and who has been in this industry much longer than even me with my 13 years. I'm not switching to the ketogenic diet at any point, but I'd rather start that relationship and start that conversation in health and fitness by saying, wow, that's really interesting. I saw you throwing a bunch of weight over your head. When did you start this diet, and what kind of changes have you seen? And does it differ from what you hear from everybody else? And you're obviously not a weight loss guy. Tell me about some of the performance enhancements that you've seen. And what's powerful about that is if we can generate good conversations by approaching people with questions rather than telling them that they're wrong, then we might actually learn something from each other. And that is where the devil is in the details. So the second point I have for you is you don't have to argue with everybody if you're a part of the tribe. So what's the tribe? These, as I said before, when you talk to somebody about their health and fitness changes in the world, instead of thinking of it as an argument that needs to be had between you two about your differences, remember, you guys are on the same team. You're on the team of people who are trying to better themselves through the world of health and fitness, changing your exercise, changing your nutrition, changing your lifestyle. You're what's right with the world with regard to passing on a legacy of health and fitness to our kids. Even if you're doing it on insufficient evidence, at least you're making the effort. And that being said, a good family or a good tribe operates because sometimes they agree to disagree. You don't have to argue with everybody. And in fact, I would argue, I'm arguing now, I would argue that you cannot change somebody's belief in a few sentences. It requires their experience of something. And that's really at the core of health and fitness when it comes to exercise, nutrition, and lifestyle. Many people are very passionate about these things because they themselves have experienced a long-term story with regard to these things. And they found what works well for them, and they found what doesn't work well for them. They found what they're passionate about and what they're willing to change, and what they're passionate about and not willing to change. They found what their families will support, and they found what their social support systems will support. And there are many times very large stories behind why people do what they do with regard to their own personal health and fitness. And your 2 sentences about the most recent ketogenic research is not going to change their opinion about what it is that they're currently doing with their health and fitness. And so, and who died and made you king, man? There's one aspect of health and fitness that is so important. And it's that when you are pursuing your own personal life change, in order to help other people, you should be a master of that lifestyle change. And that takes 10,000 hours, or at least according to Malcolm Gladwell, and several psychological research studies around the rewiring of the brain in order to create a level of mastery in a field. And even then, that only makes you a master of your health and fitness journey as it relates to other people's health and fitness journey. For instance, I have the ApoE4 genetic mutation that makes me really bad at processing fat from my bloodstream, which means that generally I do well off of a diet in consuming 50 to 60% of my calories from carbohydrates. And by do well, I mean my lipid profile looks much better. I have much better energy. My stomach and my intestinal tract are much happier with me because they don't break down fat very well either. And so all of that being said, I generally consume a carbohydrate macronutrient breakdown of 50 to 60% of my total calories in a day. Now, for my average client, if you don't have the ApoE4 genetic mutation, then you should probably be more around the 30 to 50% of your calories coming from carbohydrates, depending on your goal and your use of those things. The point is, I'm a master of my own personal health and fitness in that sense. I've pursued that for longer than 10,000 hours. But I'm not out in the world yelling at people saying, hey, you should be eating more carbs. This is why I do way better with this. I assume that the person that I'm listening to knows something that I don't. And in that vein, I've been able to help a lot of clients who don't have my genetic mutation or genetic makeup and whose body perhaps works a little bit differently from mine. And so that's a huge point in Manly Monday today, is you don't have to argue to be a part of the same tribe. If I know anything about health and fitness, the personal training is that everybody has a personal journey in their own health and fitness that requires so many things from an interdisciplinary perspective, not any one person has all the answers for them. The last thing I will say about this on Manly Monday, and this for me has been the most helpful practice with regard to rule number 9 in Jordan Peterson's book, which is assume that the person you are listening to might know something you don't. And it's that if you work hard to have the last say, then you're going to be in a much better position in terms of listening, hearing people out, getting a feel for the room or getting a feel for the people that you're interacting with. And then if you still have something to say, you still have a truth or some authenticity you want to put out into the world, then do it. But at least now you do it with full knowledge of why people believe what they believe and why people are doing what they're doing and how their journey might have influenced them up until this point. So you're not arguing semantics. You are truthfully coming from a place of caring about that person's story. So my injunction to you on Manly Monday, of the injunctions I've given you, is to work to have the last say with regard to the people that you engage. It could be with regard to health and fitness, but it could be involving other aspects of life. Your job, for instance, you're sitting there in the meeting room and you raise your hand and you start a discussion. Rather than arguing with everybody, take the time to put everybody's points on a whiteboard. What do you think about that? 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 And by the time it comes to your opportunity to give your opinion, you've heard the room out. You've let everybody do their best to vocalize what it is that they feel about this thing or think about this thing. And then when you speak, you're not in the blind. You can either agree to disagree, or you could take some awesome points from each person and meld that together with your original thought. And you're able to actually articulate what the whole room might need to hear given your experience, rather than just coming from your little island and saying, this is what I think. This is the most important thing you can hear today because I'm right and you're wrong. Which is what, even if you don't come off that way, that's what everybody hears when somebody's very adamant about their opinion. So if nothing else today on Manly Monday, my goal for everybody is that you assume that the person you're speaking with might know something you don't, or might have something to teach you. And that's rule number 9 in Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life. I think it's time in the health and fitness world that instead of being highly opinionated, highly passionate people about exercise, nutrition, and lifestyle semantics, that we start looking around at people with an attitude of camaraderie. Wow, you're trying to better yourself just like I'm trying to better myself. High five, we're on the same team. How's that journey going for you? What can I learn from your journey? Because I'm only one person and you've lived a different life than I have.
Rule 10. Be precise in your speech.
Today, we're in rule number 10 of 12 Rules for Life, and that is be precise in your speech. Be precise in your speech. Now, in the chapter itself, Jordan Peterson goes through the idea that your speech changes the world around you. And he goes very, very deep into the background and history of the Logos, which was the thing at the beginning of time that translated chaos into order through speech. You might know it as, in Genesis, let there be light, or in a different religious tradition, you might think of it in a different way. But the point is that what you say really matters. And not only what you say, but how precise you are in what you say really matters. Now, I'm not going to talk about any existential crises today. However, I do want to relate that to the world of health and fitness. So I've been in the health and fitness industry for just over 13 years. And I've worked with just about everybody that you can picture, from depressed 13-year-olds all the way up to an 82-year-old man who was missing a limb and wanted to not have back pain anymore. So I've run the gambit of types of clients and whatnot. But something that's really interesting about the client cycle, is what we call it in the personal training world, is that in the very beginning, especially the first one session or two sessions with a client, you're working very hard to gather information from that person so that you can help them best. The old saying goes, nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. And it's very, very true when you're helping somebody transform their life, even though they might not articulate that coming into the session. But one of the things that's really frustrating and very difficult about working with somebody to help them transform their life is how general people speak with regard to their own personal health and fitness. I'll give you an example. So I'm sitting in a session with a client. This just happened to me about 2 weeks ago. This just happened to me. And I say to this person, well, tell me a little bit about your health and fitness history. What have you been working on? And they say, well, I've tried everything to lose weight. Okay, I've tried everything to lose weight. That's not very precise. Okay, that doesn't help me at all. That doesn't help me as a professional understand where you've been and where you'd like to be. And you as a person are taking a lot of liberties to describe everything in one word, right? And not that I'm knocking you. You probably feel like you've tried everything. That might be a better way to put it. I feel like I've tried everything. But it would be extremely helpful to me for you to say, I'm limiting my sugars, but struggling to get to bed on time. There you go. I've tried everything. I'm limiting my sugars and struggling to get to bed on time. Or I've tried everything might be, I've done a lot of research. I've experimented with intermittent fasting and ketogenic diets, and I've done all those things, but I've never hired a professional to lead me on a personal journey through my weight loss. That would describe it too. Now, I'm speaking about this as a professional, and so you might hear that I want you to be precise in your speech so that you can help me help you. That's cool. But there's something even more powerful and impactful than that. And that is, when you're precise in your speech about your health and fitness, you can help you better. So I've tried everything to lose weight makes you feel like a victim. It makes you feel like there's nothing out there for me. I'm never going to make any progress. It's brutal and awful for me. But if you can say, I've tried everything to lose weight, and by that I mean that I've tried a lot of fad diets, but I've never hired a professional. It doesn't even have to be a personal trainer. It could be a psychologist, which might just let you talk about some of your issues with food and exercise and nutrition, whatever. The point is, if you're precise in your speech, you can give yourself a much better understanding of what the world looks like right now. And you say, I've had a really rough go of it with regard to exercise, or I don't like exercise. You can be much more precise in your speech in saying, I don't like going to the gym because I don't know what I'm doing. It makes me feel uncomfortable. It's not that you don't like exercise, so to speak. It's that you feel uncomfortable when you're there because you don't know what you're doing. Or you might say something along the lines of, in the past, I've never enjoyed exercise because I've never found something I really like to do that is moving my body and breathing. Hey, that's fair. You know, most exercise, I don't like most exercise, and I'm a personal trainer, okay? Sweating, breathing hard, pushing yourself on purpose to your physical limits. Like, it's not always enjoyable, okay? There's a reason that people hate burpees, which, by the way, if you haven't seen that stick burpee challenge people are doing on the internet, hilarious. I don't understand how you do burpees by falling on your face on the ground and why that's even a thing. You will not see a video of me on the internet trying to attempt the stick burpee challenge. Anyway, here's another example of being precise in your speech. Oh, I drink every once in a while. If you've been with me for a bit, you've heard me talk about clients when they don't believe their alcohol is a problem with reaching their health and fitness goals, and they don't even report it on their food journal. They won't talk about it in their first session. They might say something along the lines of, yeah, I have a drink every once in a while, when that really translates to, I have 5 to 7 drinks on the weekends, every weekend. and that's when you remember the count of the drinks that you've had over the weekend. It's really powerful in health and fitness to be precise in your speech I want to lose some weight. Great. How much weight do you want to lose? Is it more important to you for the number on the scale to change, or is it more important for you to see your clothes fit better? I want to lose some weight could be better translated to, I used to be a 32-inch waist and now I'm a 38-inch waist. I'd really like some help getting back into the pants that I know fit me when I'm healthy, right? Or I would like to be healthier. What does that mean? It might mean, I'd like to have more energy and be more present for my kids. I would like to feel like all of the choices that I make in a day, exercise, nutrition, lifestyle-wise, I'd like to feel like all of those things line up to make a better me. I'm sick of going to bed at night going, man, I did like 20 things that I know I shouldn't have done, and my body's going to pay for that, right? That might mean healthy to you. It could mean I'd like to get off this medication that I've been on for the last 3 years because I hate that I'm going down the same road as the rest of my family has, and I don't want to die of heart disease when I'm 55. And that can be really powerful. I would like to be healthier. So from a trainer of over 13 years to you on Manly Monday, my injunction to you, my challenge to you on Manly Monday is to be precise in your speech with regard to your health and fitness. If you have no idea what that looks like, I challenge you to go to www.definingdadbod.com/trial. And there I actually have a form where I want you to fill out what is your health and fitness heaven and what is your health and fitness hell. And with this Manly Monday injunction, be precise in your speech. Tell me what it is that the best case scenario looks like so that you have something to run toward. And tell me what it is that the worst case scenario looks like so that you have something to run from in your health and fitness. And don't just say, I will have lost weight next year if I do everything right. And I won't have lost weight next year if I don't do everything right. That's not very precise in your speech. Be precise. I have brimming energy and I'm a guy hanging out with my kids on the playground. I can jump over a small toddler in a single bound. I can, whatever that looks like for you. What does health and fitness heaven look like for you? I'm the guy who sets the stage at parties so that people are afraid to bring unhealthy foods because they know they're hanging out at Alex's house. Cool. What's health and fitness hell look like for you? For me, Ehlers-Danlos gets the better of me and I've got pain in all of my joints. Maybe I'm hooked on some medications that are pain management and I'm looking around at the world wondering why I'm in pain and everybody else seems to be doing just fine. That's the ideal picture of heaven and hell for me, right? And I challenge you to do the same thing in being precise in your speech for yourself and health and fitness. So Jordan Peterson's rule number 10, be precise in your speech. He's speaking specifically about the way that we shape reality through what we say. And the more precise we can be about our internal feelings and about what we think in the world, the better off everybody's going to be in regard to politics and economics and psychology. Now, I am not a professor of any of those things. And so I'm talking about being precise in your speech with regard to health and fitness. Be precise about what you have done, be precise about where you're at right now, and be precise about what you would like for yourself, what you wouldn't like for yourself. And if you're willing to take me up on the challenge, I'd love to read your answer about your health and fitness heaven and your health and fitness hell.
Rule 11. Do not bother children when they're skateboarding.
And rule number 11 today is don't bother children while they are skateboarding. Don't bother children while they're skateboarding. Now, if you've been following this Manly Monday series for a bit, you know that I'm the first to tell you that I am not a licensed psychologist or psychiatrist as Jordan Peterson is, and I also don't purport to be some kind of expert in esoteric, oh, there goes my book, esoteric or philosophical underpinnings. However, in the health and fitness world, I find a direct correlation with these rules and some very important themes with regard to pursuing a legacy of health and fitness for ourselves and our children. And so, rule number 11, don't bother children while skateboarding. I think it's don't bother children while they are skateboarding. It's not, he's not actually talking about you skateboarding while bothering kids. But the chapter itself, if I were to summarize it, I'm going to do a bang up job compared to what you're actually going to read in the chapter. The goal of the chapter is to talk about how in order to become stronger and adapt proficiently and positively, in order to become a master of a skill, then you have to walk some sort of line between chaos and order. Or in essence, while children are skateboarding, they're taking risks and they're making it really difficult on themselves and trying to accomplish something. And it's a very brave thing. I don't know if you've watched things like American Ninja Warrior, which I'm a huge fan of, and you watch these guys do this stuff and you're just amazed by it. How did they get there? They got there by doing crazy stuff on the monkey bars in the park, and they got there by, climbing trees and doing things that otherwise would seem pretty dangerous. And they've reached some level of elite and masterful performance. Now, I'm not going to talk about the existential underpinnings of trying to find your limits in order to grow with regard to, politics or psychology. What I am going to talk about today, though, is something that I'm passionate about here at Defining Dad Bod, and that is the role of physical fitness and the possible dangers involved for our kids and how it's actually very good for them. So when I was younger, when my son was younger. Let's try that. I guess I was younger too, but once you have a kid, you just feel like that you kind of stay that age. Your body ages and everything gets harder. But I think of myself as about the same age as when my son was born. Maybe that'll change soon. I hear people say, "Oh my gosh, my son just asked this girl to marry him." Like, wow, how time flies, So I think you can sympathize with that feeling. Anyway, when my son was younger, I remember him toddling around and trying to figure out his body. He'd walk around and he'd run into the wall, or he'd topple off of the ottoman or something like that. And my wife would go, like, "Oh no, are you okay?" And I remember telling her at that point, I would look at her, and I didn't mean to be short or mean. I'm like, "Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't just stop your gasping. If you have to, look away, walk away, whatever, because he's not worried until you are. He's not worried until you are." I would notice that if she wasn't in the room, he could topple off the ottoman, bump his head, stand up and look around, and then be fine. He'd walk away, didn't think anything of it, and go back to his adventure, right? But if she was in the room and he fell off the ottoman and bumped his head or whatever, he'd look at her and wait for her kind of response or reaction. Then he'd "Ugh," and then it'd take 2 minutes to console him and comfort him and stuff. "Oh, you're going to be okay, little buddy." And then he'd be really hesitant about getting back on the ottoman. Now, I'm not saying that moms are bad and they shouldn't have compassion for their kids. It's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is that his ability to deal with something difficult, to deal with the hard knocks, so to speak, that life sometimes throws your way. For a toddler, gravity's working, and you fight that battle every day as a toddler. In fact, I'd be very angry. People ask about the terrible twos all the time. What's going on in their brain that makes them so ornery? Well, if I fell down half as much as my kid did during his terrible twos, I'd be angry too. But the point is that life throws hard knocks your way. And one of the powerful things about that is you find the amazing human capacity to rise to the occasion. We're ready for hard knocks, actually. And you find that the harder the knocks, the stronger and more equipped we are to handle harder things down the road. It's an adaptive biological response to difficulty. And that's powerful. So rewind from that a little bit. If your children are in an environment where everybody's worried about every scrape and bump, and you're worried about, them riding down the block and maybe hitting a pothole and scraping their face or whatever, that when we live in a world where we're trying to overprotect our children on a physical level, what happens is, I'm not saying that we shouldn't protect our kids, but here on Manly Monday, what I am saying is that the hard knocks are important. The hard knocks are important. They teach you, hey, stay on your bike. Gravity's working, bro. Or, hey, you need to be more proficient at jumping curves. Or, hey, you need to pay attention a little better because there are consequences to your actions. And that's what makes us smarter and stronger and more endurable. And so in this rule number 11, don't bother children while they're skateboarding, there's an injunction in here, at least for me, from a physical perspective, to encourage our kids to take controlled risks and to get stronger and to push their limits and to hurt themselves every once in a while. And, I grew up in a sense, you could be home when the streetlights came on. That was mom's rule. And half the time, I'm pretty sure she didn't know where we were. She knew we were supposed to be down at the neighbor kid's house, but didn't know that we'd migrated to the football field and we're playing football and stuff. And in today's world, I see pretty often, I walk outside and kids don't go anywhere by themselves. And, we, in our subdivision, I don't think you should let your kid hang out by the 60-mile-an-hour road. They won't make it very long. I think in college, they come out with the Darwin Awards. Like, we don't want our kids to be, we don't want them to be subject to the Darwin Awards necessarily. But what I am saying on Manly Monday is that the risks, the controlled risks as a parent, the controlled risks that our kids take, teaches them how to be stronger, teaches them how to pay attention, teaches them how to be focused. And I just read an article recently that said we are saran wrapping our generation at their own expense, meaning we're trying to put them in a bubble and protect them from, eating a piece of food off the ground or whatever. Don't do that. Let's be careful. Let's protect you from this. Let's protect you from that. And what happens is life happens. We know this. We've got stress coming at us 100 miles an hour. Things happen. Car wrecks happen. Family tragedies happen. Sometimes you have a disease that you didn't see coming and you've got to deal with it. How are you going to have the resilience to stand up to those things if you didn't even have the resilience to stand up to learning how to ride your bike or playing down the road away from your parents a little bit and having to navigate social conflict and being home when the lights came on, right? So on Manly Monday today, my injunction to you from rule number 11, don't bother kids while they're skateboarding, is one, your kids are a lot tougher than you think they are. If you're a parent, a lot of times you're like, oh, this is a precious human being. And I remember with my 6-month-old, I'd be like, ha, and I'd chuck him at the couch pillows and people were like, he's only a baby. He loved it. He was like, that was like our thing. We got to hang out with pillows and stuff. And I'm like, guys, he's made of cartilage. He gets stronger the more he hangs out. My 6-month-old, I could hold him on my shoulders with one leg, and he had the core strength to sit up and kind of look around at the world. He couldn't even sit on the floor, but he could sit on my shoulders, right? If we give our children the opportunity to adapt powerfully to the world around them, then they will rise to the occasion. They are resilient, and it will make them more adaptable in the future when things are really, really difficult for them. Because as you and I both know, life's not getting any easier, man. It's only getting harder and it's only getting faster. And our kids only need to be more resilient to deal with that. Number 2 that I want you to take away from Manly Monday is don't be the old guy or girl who can't hang with the kids who are skateboarding. Now, don't get me wrong here. My bones are not cartilage anymore, all right? When my 165 pounds slams into the concrete because I am a terrible skateboarder, then I will break something. So I'm not saying you need to do everything your kids do. What I am saying is you need to be active enough that when the time comes, you can keep up with them. You can keep up with them. You can go, you don't need to show off, but I mean, do you really want to miss out on their bravery and their mastery of the world around them and their mastery of their own body? I just spoke with a father recently who we were talking about his boys. He's got a 10-year-old and a 13-year-old. And I said, man, I look at my son right now and I just want to spend time with him because I know he's not going to be this old forever. And at some point he's going to be stuck in his iPhone or he's going to be thinking about his girlfriends or whatever. And he's not going to want to do anything to do with dear old dad. This man told me, I've got a 13-year-old and he loves hanging out with me. And I said, what kind of stuff do you do together? And he goes, well, we're active when you do things and stuff, but he still hasn't beat me in a foot race. And that really stuck with me. His kid, he's an athletic kid. He does all the sports, not all the sports, but he does track. I believe he plays football at the junior varsity level. I believe he's also involved in martial arts and stuff. And his dad is a master trainer of like 20 years. Okay. So this kid is rocking athletic, got the genes and whatnot. And his dad's really proud. He's pushing 50. He's like, kid still hasn't beat me in a foot race. And I'm going to maintain that as long as possible. So the other injunction here on Manly Monday is not just a message about how we treat our kids, to give them a controlled but risky environment that allows them to grow incrementally and address challenges and become resilient, because life's not going to get any easier. But number 2 is you got to be the person who can hang with them. Okay, don't bother the kids while they're skateboarding, and don't be the old guy, or at least stave it off as long as possible. Don't be the old guy who has to sit back and watch like, wow, they're pretty amazing. When I was their age, blah, blah, blah. Be the guy who helps them push that envelope, and let them see you pushing your envelopes as well, pushing the envelope as far as you're concerned, because the same is true for you. Life's not getting any easier, and you need to be more resilient, not less resilient. And so if we're looking at our generation versus the next generation, sure, we shouldn't overprotect them. That's the only way they're going to get strong enough to handle the things life throws at them. And similarly for us, we shouldn't saran wrap ourselves either. What are some ways that you can be pushing your envelope? What are some ways that you could be challenging yourself to up the ante and make yourself better? It doesn't have to be skateboarding. I'm not going to be picking up skateboarding anytime soon. But my challenge to you on Manly Monday is to find something that you're not awesome at yet, start practicing and get better and better and better at it, and let your kids watch that process happen. It'll make amazing things happen for both of you. And you have a little sympathy, not in the like overly compassionate way, but a little sympathy for the process that they're going to go through to master their environment. And you'll find that both you and them are made of sterner stuff than you thought.
Rule 12. Pet a kitty and encounter one in the street.
We're finishing up Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life with rule number 12. Pet a cat when you see one on the street. And if you haven't read this book already, what you'll notice at the last rule is it sounds a lot less imposing than it actually is. So Dr. Peterson goes into the story of his young girl, Michaela, and she was born with an autoimmune disorder that they didn't know about, and it generated into a form of rheumatoid arthritis that attacked her joints and degenerated them over time. And the poor young girl, I think around 6 or 7, started getting pains in her joints, and then as she grew, it got worse and worse and worse to the point where she needed to be on pain medication. The pain medication and the pain together caused a certain amount of depression, so she had to be on antidepressants. She had a really hard time not sleeping vast amounts of time during the day. She needed joint replacements for several of her joints before she even turned age 20. Crazy amount of suffering. And in this chapter, the point of petting a cat when you see one on the street is an injunction. On Manly Monday, I'm giving this injunction to you. It's to find the beauty, the grace, and even the fleeting moments of happiness in being, even though there's an immense amount of suffering. He goes on to talk about the fact that you don't have to dig very deep to find an amazing amount of suffering in people's lives. In fact, you might be one of those people. If you think through what's going on in your life right now or what's gone on in the past few years, there is likely an amazing amount of suffering that either you or your loved ones have gone through that make life, frankly, just really crappy to deal with sometimes. And I'm speaking, in platitudes at the moment. I'll give you an example. So in my life, I have Ehlers-Danlos, and Ehlers-Danlos is a disease that causes your ligaments and tendons not to produce as much collagen, as I understand it. And the overall effect is that your ligaments and tendons are stretchier than they should be. And so that causes an immense amount of strain and stress on your joints. And so I joke that I'm 30, but my joints are more like I'm 80. And that's really true. I have disc degeneration in my neck and my lower back. I have degeneration of my cartilaginous tissue in my joints. They pop out of place pretty regularly. It's a very painful thing to live with. But if you rewind even further back, my mom is likely the person who passed this genetic disorder onto me. And she has it herself, but she wasn't diagnosed until her mid-30s. And even then, she went through several other diagnoses to get there. And this lady, such a trooper. Mom, if you're watching, you rock. You're an amazing person, and I love you, and I'm so inspired by you. This lady, she had 4 kids, and if you're a lady out there, you know that when you have children, your body expands, your hips expand. There's actually a chemical messenger called relaxin that relaxes the joints so that you can actually expand in your hips to make room for the expanded uterus in the baby. Well, if you combine that with Ehlers-Danlos, then that means every single time my mom had a child, the pain got worse and worse and worse because she was already struggling with overly flexible joints. And then if you add relax into the mix, then that causes further degradation of the joint structures that should be supported by ligaments and tendons. And this lady, I remember growing up, man, this lady was the perfect person to teach me to stop and pet a cat on the street. As Jordan Peterson says, we weren't much for cats in my world, but we did all kinds of things that were the stop and smell the roses kind of thing. I remember, so this lady would have so much pain in her joints, but she loved to garden, and so we kept a garden on our acre in Michigan at the time when I was young, and we had corn growing, and we had squash growing, and we had peas growing. I remember I had to go pick those tomato worms up off the plants. If you ever picked, they're a nasty looking thing, man. They're like green and they're big. It's like the big character in A Bug's Life. They're just nasty, and they apparently they'll sting you or bite you. I don't know. When I was a kid, you kicked them off the thing and you smashed them with your shovel, and that was my job when I was 8. But my mom, she would take the time to teach me how to weed the garden, and that feeling you get when you pull a weed and you get the whole thing, the root comes with it, and you can shake it off and throw it behind you or throw it in the bucket or whatever. That satisfying feeling, that was because she took the time to explain to me why it was important to get the root out of the ground. And she used to talk about how Jesus spoke about parables and threw seeds down and talked about how the sower would sow good seeds, and those seeds would spring up to bear good fruit, which was in the garden itself. But the bad seeds got choked up by the weeds, and our job as gardeners was to pull those weeds out. And I remember that satisfying feeling. Even today, if I pull a weed up and I get the whole root, like, yes, there's a big win. That's a stop and smell the roses kind of thing. No matter what's going on in your life, no matter how bad my back hurts, or no matter how rough it is to deal with family illness or whatever, man, that satisfying feeling when you pull that weed, right? I also remember she would keep bird feeders out back for the hummingbirds. She loved hummingbirds, and hummingbirds, I don't know if you've hung out with hummingbirds much, but there's little tiny birds with crazy fast wings. They sound kind of like a mini helicopter flying through, and she would garden in a floral bikini top and cut off jean bottoms, okay? So she's in a lot of pain, but she's still down there squatting down gardening, and we made amazing salsa. We canned lots of cucumbers. It was a great time. I remember one time we were out the back, and she stood up real quick and like dodged to the left and right, and I'm like, what's going on? And she said, there's a big bee. And it sounded like a huge bee, like a giant bee, and it turned out it was a hummingbird, and the hummingbird thought her floral bikini top was the flower feeder to get its sweet sugar nectar from. And so it was dive bombing her in the garden, and we had a great laugh about that as well. My mom was the kind of lady who, the tiniest little things, and she's still this way, and I'm going to get a little emotional talking about it, but she was the kind of lady that even though she was walking around in pain, and she'd talk about it, but she worked really hard not to show that to us. And she would stop whatever she was doing and smell the roses and dodge the hummingbirds and teach you how to pull the weeds, man. And as somebody who lives with pain pretty much daily because of this disease, and as somebody who works with people who live with pain daily and injuries daily, and to know how much people really do suffer and how big of a miracle it is to stop and pet a cat on the street and find some beauty and some joy anyway. I didn't expect to get emotional. I'm sorry, guys. On Manly Monday, I guess if real men don't cry, I apologize. On Manly Monday, my injunction to you guys with Jordan Peterson's rule number 12 is, despite whatever suffering you might be experiencing, or whatever suffering might be going on in your loved ones' lives, that you stop and spend the time, as Dr. Peterson's daughter did, pet a cat. That was a small piece of joy in her world of suffering, or as my mom did, spend some time gardening, doing things that you love. Do that. Find something small to take joy in this week, because you might be suffering, and it might be brutal, and it might be hard, and it's good. It's good. And it takes a man or a real woman, it takes a real man or a real woman to find some joy and some grace in that suffering. Thanks for joining me, and thanks for going through Jordan Peterson's book with me during Manly Monday. I hope that these rules for life have spoken to you. I hope that you take these challenges seriously. I'm looking forward to compiling them together to put them on YouTube and let you see all 12 all together. You guys rock. You're awesome. Thank you so much for your support of Defining Dad Bod. This has been Alex VanHouten. Until next time, kick butt, take names.